Welcome to another episode on the Home Tech Talk podcast. My name is Jake.
And my name is Aidan.
On this episode, we caught up with Shane from Thor Technologies.
In this episode, we had a great overview of the Thor product line and learned a little bit about some of the filtration products that they have to offer.
And if you are liking our content, feel free to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell to keep up to date. Shane, welcome to the Home Tech Talk podcast.
Thanks for having me, guys. Pleasure to be here.
Do you want to just give us a quick rundown on how you came to represent Thor and the background of Thor in the Australian market?
Absolutely. So, look, I've been in the AV space now for about 18 years. And it started off for a company called Avanti. I was designing smart wiring systems, structured cabling, and home theatre. And then went into a few different jobs doing the same thing. And then from there, I actually went to LG Commercial. So I worked for their display division, doing like a lot of commercial stuff, pubs, clubs, airports, that kind of thing. And then from there, I spent a little over 3 years at Pioneer, where I looked after the home AV market, so amps, receivers, speakers, stuff like that. And then from there, actually did a short stint in telco for a little while, but then come back to AV working for Thor, which is where I've been now for about 4.5 years.
Yeah, awesome. Did you want to give our audience a bit of a background into Thor?
Yeah, absolutely. So look, Thor was founded in 2001. So we've been around about 21 years now. Australian company, and our engineer and our director came from a power company before that. So, you know, there's now over 30 to 40 years of experience in the power space from sort of the late 80s. They came across and they formed Thor, and yeah, we've been in the Australian market now for, 21 and a bit years. And we focus solely on power protection and filtration. Now we've just started network protection as well, like Cat5, Cat6 cable protection. But ultimately that's all we do, all we've ever done, and we focus down on that.
Cool. What are the key products in the product line? Like we've got some of the products here with us.
Yeah, look, I mean, we have sort of 3 or 4 verticals of products, if you like. So we have our power board range, which starts at a single point plug and goes right through to an 8-way board, which you see behind you there, the red board, the A12. Then we have a range of hardwired products. So we have 2 DIN rail mount products, which go into the distribution box in your house. Yep, that's one behind you right there. That's our 20 amp version, if I'm not mistaken. And we also have a 30 amp version, which then allows you to put it into the distribution box and actually liven up or, protect and filter the power points in your house. And then we have a cavity mount model as well. And that's for, those applications where DRMs don't quite, there's not enough room in the distribution box or something like that. We can delve on that in a little bit more detail. Then we have our rack mount gear. So we have 2 versions of rack mount. We have an RF11 and an RF11IQ. The difference being they're basically the exact same thing, except that the RF11IQ is controllable via a control system. There is also an app, Control 4 specifically, especially we've got a new model coming in a couple of months. Will actually be Control 4 certified, has SDDP and everything that you require for that. We have what you also see behind you, which is the PS10. That's our voltage regulation. So that one is actually a power conditioner. So not only will protect against surges and spikes and will filter the power, but will actually regulate the voltage for you as well. And then now we have our new network protection range too. So RJ45 protection, we have a single inline protector, and then we have a 16-way rack mount protector for protecting all your network cables from surge, because surge has become a pretty big issue on the network side of things as well as the power side of things.
Yeah. So where in the network chain would that product be plugged? Like, where would that plug be utilized?
So the obviously the inline, basically anywhere. So I mean, to give you a little bit of background on how we came to doing that product, we do quite a bit of business into the security industry, and a lot of cameras were actually getting taken out because they're outside, they're exposed, whatever, and when the house or when the sometimes the camera, but even around the camera, when it cops a strike, cameras were actually getting fried, and they were power over Ethernet cameras, so they effectively didn't have any power. And then, they do have power, it's just powered over the Ethernet, and of course you can't plug a 240 volt protector on that because there isn't one. So then that caused us to do a little bit of research and a bit of digging and actually build a RJ45 protection. So you would have it like inline on your feed to the camera. You could also have it inline on your feed into the modem, because a lot of people during lightning storms get modems cooked. I've had one personally, and it was of course plugged into power protection, but not network protection. And so what happened is the surge hits the ground, gets into your telephone cables or your network cables, and actually comes through and fries the product that way. So you would put that inline before the network port, literally of anything you would want to protect from surge, which, like power, is pretty much anything you care about.
Yeah. So that product would be PoE pass-through if you're utilizing those cameras.
Absolutely. So it will pass. So I think from memory, the cutoff is 100 volts. So that's where it deems a surge, because PoE is 40 something volts, and then PoE 2 I think is 61 or 62 volts. So we factored all that in, and the cutoff is just above that. So yes, it will pass power over Ethernet. It will not identify that as a surge, but anything over that, absolutely, it'll cap it. And look, it's got so I don't know, do you guys have an RJ45? No, you didn't get one of those. Basically, it's got an earthing pin as well, because for surge protection, earthing is very important, because what we do, and this is fairly unique to us in a lot of cases, is the first thing we try and do is divert the surge to earth. And then if there's anything left over, then the board or the RJ45 protector will absorb it if necessary, and at a last resort cut the power if it's excessive.
And that's a destructive process for the device itself?
So it is ultimately, if you do take a whack on the surge protector, all of a sudden it'll be a broken circuit, like that camera won't work, or you'll have no internet to your computer, you'll be going, what's going on? That will basically be a throwaway item. So you take that out, you throw it away, you put a new in, and you're up and working again. But bottom line, if it was big enough to take out the surge protector, then it would have cooked whatever was on the other end. So better a $120 surge protector than a $2,000 computer, $3,500 PTZ camera, etc.
Yeah, awesome. That is a very useful product. I haven't really thought of that too often. I have actually also had multiple modems and routers be affected by electrical activity. So
look, it happens, and with the new one as well, something to note is it's gigabit rated. So there will be no throttling of your speeds either, which is very important. So anything up to a gigabit per second will pass through that, which, as you know, we're all up around there in a lot of regards at the moment. And that's the same with the rack mount as well. So then we do have a rack mount version to go at the other end, to protect everything on your rack. So if you have a fairly heavy data system coming in, you can protect everything at the rack end.
We talked just briefly about the different, there being surge protection and power filtration. What is the difference between those two activities, and then what's the consequences of them?
So we'll talk about protection first, okay? So just to give you a little bit of background, I suppose, on protection, right? There's three key factors when you're talking about protection, okay? There's dual rating, response time, and clamping voltage. And a few of these is where we really set ourselves apart. The first one is joule rating, okay? So a joule rating, very simply, is a measurement of energy, as you know. And that measurement, it equates to how much energy that the board can absorb, okay? So to put that into perspective for you, think of it like a battery. You get a brand new surge protector, it's got a full battery. Every time it has to wear a surge, you wear down on the battery until the battery's all gone, which is time to replace the surge protector. Now, the reason I bring this up is we get a lot of, especially in retail stores, you'll get a lot of customers and they'll go, oh, look, I got a surge protector from Bunnings or something like that. To put that into perspective, a lot of those surge protectors, they're rated at like 150 to 300 joules, very low numbers. That A12 board that you have behind you there, that is rated at 7,222 joules. So it sort of gives you an idea of why you can pick up a board from Bunnings for $15 and you have to pay $350 because very basic maths would tell you, it's 30, 40 times the amount of protection. So, and that protection ultimately is what is protecting your goods against surges and spikes. Everyone, when it comes to surges and spikes, everyone thinks storms and lightning is what we need to protect against. And they are right, okay? So lightning and storms are the most severe, but they're actually the least common of your problems. Your bigger day-to-day issues are actually caused by things inside your home or office. So fridges, washers, dryers, all of that stuff has fairly robust motors on it. When those motors kick in and kick off, they can actually send surges into the system and your equipment wears that. So that's why a big joule rating is very important, and that's why surge protection is very important. The other two things with surge protection is response time. Now, response time is ultimately the amount of time that the board takes to go, hey, this is a problem, I need to do something about it. All of your major brands, they react in less than a nanosecond. So us, Monster, Furman, Belkin, Crest, just to name a few other brands in protection off the top of my head, they all react in less than a nanosecond. A lot of other brands on the market are upwards of 20 nanoseconds, but to put that into perspective, you can do damage after about 7 to 8 nanoseconds. So again, it really isn't beneficial to get cheap surge protection. You need to pay for a quality brand because, as you can appreciate, with a reaction speed like that, it's not even going to react even if it had the joule rating and the capacity to do something about it, it's far too slow to the party to do so. And then the other one is clamping voltage. Now, this comes from us. So before I said we were an Australian company. We're one of the only companies to design and engineer our products for 240 volt power. A lot of the other brands on the market, like Monster, for example, they're an American company. You've got European companies. Their power products are designed and engineered in those places. And then what happens when they want to bring the product to Australia, they change a few components to make it meet the minimum set of standards required for surge protection in Australia. But I think the industry standard is about 770 volts. So anything under that is actually still going through to your equipment. Thor products clamp at 300 volts. So anything over 300 volts either gets diverted to the earth or absorbed by the surge protector. And no other brand on the market that we've tested comes close. I think the closest is about 550 volts. But remember before I was telling you about fridges, washers, dryers, they push a lot of surge into your power around your house. Well, a lot of those surges are 300 to 400 volts. So a lot of those other products, they'll stop you against a storm or lightning or a drop phase or an issue with power supply from your provider, but they won't actually help you out with that day-to-day stuff. And you can actually have 50 to 100 surges in your office or in your home or wherever you are every day. Now, all of that is sort of wearing down on your equipment. And so that's sort of a background into surge and why we think we do it better than everyone else, because ultimately we hit a few of those specifications that are required and we blow them out of the water, making sure that really no damaging voltage gets through to your equipment ever.
Cool. Can we talk a bit more about power conditioning? I think that's something that I'd love to know a bit more about as well.
Yep. So look, when you say power conditioning, do you mean filtration or do you mean regulation like the PS10 in the background there?
Yeah, well, I guess
the reason I asked that question is because there is a bit of confusion around what people mean by power conditioning.
I'm definitely one of those that's confused.
Okay. So like that product in the background there that you have, the PS10, that is a voltage conditioner or a power conditioner, right? So to some people, power conditioning means filtration, i.e. cleaning the power. Whereas to other people, power conditioning actually means regulating the voltage as well. So I might as well talk about both of those things anyway, because we have both of them covered. So look, filtration, ultimately, when it comes to power, you can get what is called noisy or polluted power. And what that is actually frequency. So you imagine that a power wave in a perfect situation is a pure sine wave, okay? Now, on the back of that pure sine wave, frequencies can get injected into the back of that. Now, the causes of things like this, again, fridges, washers, dryers, air conditioners, issues with power supply. There's so many things that can cause noise in your power. On the East Coast, you guys have the ripple, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. That is an example of a noise. Now, that one has been deliberately injected in, but the problem with noisy power is it can cause all kinds of issues. I mean, we fix things from flickering lights to pixelation, noise on picture. Like, I guess a classic example you might have seen, and I might be showing my age a little bit here, is when I was younger, I'd be watching my cartoons on a Saturday morning and Mum would be doing the vacuuming and you'd be getting those buzzy lines on your TV and then you turn the vacuum off and they go away. That's a classic example of noise being injected into the power and then ending up in your equipment. So vacuums, fridges, washers, dryers, I mean, all of these things can cause noise. And when you're talking on a more commercial or professional application, data loss is a big one. Frozen computers. So we've all had our computer freeze, right? And you've had to hold down the power button until the power shuts off, turn it back on again. A lot of the time, that is actually caused by noisy power. And because your computer, it's a motherboard, it's RAM, it's everything like that, it's a very sensitive piece of equipment and it doesn't like power fluctuations and it doesn't like noisy power. And what it causes is it to do weird things. I mean, we get all kinds of reports of different things that, you go, well, look, sounds like it could be a power issue. I'd start by putting in a A12 or a DRM or something to clean up the power. Once you've done that, and then you can at least eradicate that as an issue. Now, we have, we've tested a lot of the products on the market. We have some of the best filtration on the market. Like that A12 board there filters about 70% more noise than any other thing we've tested on the market. And it's an active filtration. And the reason I bring that up is a lot of other brands on the market are what we call a passive filtration. And ultimately, again, if we come back to the pure sine wave, passive filtration just filters the peak and the crest of the wave. So it gives you a reasonable filtration, but our active dynamic tracking filtration is active. So it actually filters the entire of the 240 volt sine wave curve and therefore removes more of those unwanted frequencies that ultimately you don't want in your power. When you're building a system from the base up, you need two very staples of your network, and that's clean, protected power and a good network. Once you have that, you can sort of build up from there. So that's filtration.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. There is a lot of noise, especially here. We've got I think solar systems are a huge,
massive, because they feed back onto the grid. They're causing as you know, the grids were never designed for power to be pushed back onto them, but they are anyway. Causes, the inverters and everything cause huge noise issues.
You've only got to go and stand near one to realize the amount of noise that they're creating.
Exactly. And then, so the other thing was voltage conditioning. So to go a next step up from that, the PS10 in the background is what we call a voltage conditioner. So on top of protecting you with everything we just discussed and having the best active dynamic tracking filtration on there, that actually conditions the voltage. So you may or may not be aware that your voltage actually fluctuates a lot on a daily level. I know, like here in WA, if they deliver between 207 and 278 volts, I think it is, that's considered normal operation. Well, as you know, that's not, our equipment is 240 volt designed, most of it. So that's a pretty big scope between what you could have at your power point and be deemed normal and what you would expect. So what the PS10 will do is incoming voltage is anywhere between 190 and 270 volts, it will actually give you a consistent 240 volt sine wave on the nose, plus being protected, plus being filtered. So for those more high-end theatres where, the equipment is expensive and as such, it's all been designed to run on a 240 volt, you're actually going to get improvements in the picture and audio quality of your equipment. We also sell them into scientific labs because fluctuations in power can actually cause inaccurate data sets because, the equipment again is designed to run at 240. So when you're talking a higher end application, you want voltage regulation as well because it goes up and down, and this is going to just give you a consistent 240 volts on the nose to your equipment, ultimately giving it the best chance to deliver the performance that you paid for.
Yeah, it seems that the more sensitive the equipment, the more it can benefit from having that type of clean power.
That unit's about $2,500 retail. Are you going to get the benefit from putting that on a $500 soundbar? Wouldn't have thought so, but you're talking about some expensive equipment, a big rack, $20,000, $30,000. Absolutely. Wouldn't dream of not doing it.
Yeah.
Talking about data racks, a line that I'm pretty keen on is the PDU range. If you wanted to give our audience a bit of an understanding as to what you guys have on offer there.
We have two models, okay? So, and we actually have some new models coming that replace those models with improved protection and filtration, and more will come out about that in the future. But ultimately, it's a single rack unit, 1 RU, slots into the rack. You have 7 Australian plugs on the front, or sockets rather, and then on the back, you have 4 ISE sockets. So in total, you have 11 ports on the unit, protected, big dual rating, all of the base specs that we talked about when I was talking protection. It's actually just had an improvement in filtration as well. So that's the RF11. It's as simple as that. There's not much else to it. An on-off switch, a reset switch, and that's all there is to it. It's simply a PDU, but it is a high-end PDU because it delivers ultimate protection and filtration as well. Then we move on to the RF11IQ. Same thing again, except that it's controllable, okay? So the 7 main sockets on the front are each controllable individually, on and off. And then on the back, you have the bank of 4 IECs. They are controllable as a bank of 1, okay? So how can you control it? Firstly, you can log in with your browser and control it from there. So you know the IP address, you simply punch that into your browser, you go in there, it brings up a GUI. And on the new models, we've really re-engineered this GUI so that it's very pretty and gives you all the information you need. There is an app as well, so you can control it with an app on your phone, Android, iOS, Windows. And now it's Control 4. So we have a Control 4 driver for the current model. And the new model will actually be Control 4 certified. So it has SDDP, which is a programming language that Control 4 require for their certification. It also has MDNS, which makes it far easier to locate on the network. You literally just type rf11iq.local and it finds it on your network for you. And I mean, again, very simply, on-off control, because it's a PDU, and that's all you really need from it. And that's that model. Any way you can control it, and then a non-controllable version.
Some good features for integrators out there for sure.
Absolutely.
So what are your paths to market? So you've, apart from through professional integrators such as ourselves and industry, residential technology professionals, how do end users go about finding the products there?
Well, look, we have a range in Harvey Norman's, Bing Lee's, Retrovision, so you'll find it in most retailers. You'll definitely find it in most specialist hi-fi stores all around Australia, in every major city. If you're a dealer like yourselves, we also have a few distributors. We've just gotten on board with Snap One, actually, which we're very excited about. So you will find our products in the Snap One portal. You can order from them. That's Control 4 as well. So it literally doesn't matter what vertical you're in. We have an avenue to market for you.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on, Shane. It's been very insightful.
I really appreciate you. I love talking the talk. So thanks for having me on, guys.
Thank you. It's been very helpful.
Thanks for watching.
So tell me, Jake, what did you like about this episode?
I got a really good understanding about power conditioning.
Yeah, I found it really useful to understand the difference between surge protection, voltage regulation, and power filtration.
Yeah, it was a really good episode. And if you are liking our content, feel free to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to keep up to date.
And don't forget to follow us on social media at Home Tech Talk.
We'll see you on the next episode.